The CEDAW committee also urged the Malaysian government to enhance the capacity of the judges in this country so that they begin to understand the meaning of equality. There are many meanings of equality. If you abuse a man and you equally abuse a woman, that is also equality in some point, from some points of view. But it is not. Equality is the enjoyment of a right. It is not the equal enjoyment of misery. So these are the things that judges have to learn too. But that consistent program for judges and the exposure that they may need to jurisprudential development in other parts of the world is not taking place in my view in this country. But I want to point out to you, it is taking place in other parts of the world, and I want to give you an example. In Japan, a few years ago in fact, in Osaka, the appeals court instructed the appellants, who are all women, and the respondents in a labor case, in which case it was a private company, it gave a decision asking them to reach an amicable settlement based on the principles of equality and non-discrimination, and gave very specific recommendations with regard to the principle of equality and non-discrimination based on CEDAW. And I want to give you a quote of what the court said. The court said, "It must be borne in mind that to tolerate the vestiges of discrimination based on past social understandings would result in turning one's back to the progress in society." So, but this will happen only if women, as Ivy said, start claiming our rights. And some of you very bravely have done that, some successfully and some not. But we have to pursue this. We cannot give this up. Women must stake their claim to equality as full citizens of the country, forcing the development of jurisprudence based on universal and international norms of equality. Not as in the Guppy case, where the defense lawyer's argument was accepted by the court that it is the norm in the plastics industry to get women to retire early. What norms do you use? Not a piddling little company sitting in a corner making plastic buckets. You have to adhere to international norms and standards. The norm set by a private actor is not law. It's not the law. And the court accepted this. It's amazing, yeah? So we have to adhere to universal and international norms of equality, and we must contribute to the development of institutions. As women, as rights owners, as rights holders, we have to contribute to the development of institutions that have the capacity to adopt universal standards of equality and to interpret and apply these standards in all policies, laws, and programs. For this, CEDAW is our instrument. It is our superhero.
Shanti, when you said that almost 80% of governments have actually reported, yeah, that's right. So 80% of it's a very low, yeah. And I think one of the reasons why 80% of governments have been reporting is because of the women's movement. I think the activism in all these countries, yeah, so yay to that, yeah, applause to that. It's because of the activism of women, you know, that bringing, you know, all different parties together. In 2006, we didn't even have the issue of sexuality in our report. In 2012, we have the issue of sexuality, workers' rights, issue of pregnancy, age discrimination. It's really to do with the women's movement and the women's groups all over the country, all over the world, including Malaysia. I just want to share with you this huge report that we have in front of you is has not only because of Sarah Thwaites and her, you know, and her standards in writing and her focus on making sure we dig up as much information as possible. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the Executive Committee of Women's Aid Organization. Our President, Chong Len, is here. Our Vice President, Vivian Lee, is also here. And our past President, Mira, is also here. They're all our committee members who, when we didn't have enough money to publish it, said, it's okay. Let's just, you know, the money that we raised for the public. For that, thank you very much for stepping in and helping us publish this. You know, it's all our work, of course. So just to say thank you to that. And Karina is also here. Sorry, Karina, our committee member. Yeah. Just to walk you through, obviously 22 organizations. Next, alternative report. I think it's really important to emphasize, especially to the press, that this is an alternative report because there is no government report. The first report that Women's Aid and NCWO coordinated was called the shadow report. We shadowed what the government is saying. The government is saying 1, 2, 3, 10 things, let's say. We are saying we do agree with 2 of what you say you have achieved, but guess what? You know, the other things are not, other achievements are not up to mark. And this is a shadow report and what is the situation on the ground. Here we went on, this basically is a human rights report in the absence of a government report, but it'll be a really great resource for everyone. Believe me, this is going to be a great resource for reporters, NGOs, Suhakam, whoever, members of parliament, you know, Rosini is here from the Selangor government, thank you very much for being here. To be as a reference, you know, because it really covers all issues. Next, so that is what has happened, the situation of no report. Next. We have the content, critical issues. Then we have what is known as a status report, meaning we need to know how in 2006 the government was given some recommendations. What has become of the recommendations? Government has made pledges and promises going to the UN, going to Geneva, because even the Universal Periodic Review, there were pledges made. We actually look at those pledges and those recommendations and say, where are we at? What's the status of that? We also look at the UPR, I'll show you in a minute. Then of course the status of women's human rights under the different issues and articles, and so on. Next. Okay, carry on, next one. So basically, looking at recommendations that were given to us by the committee in 2006, statement of intent, within the conversation with the committee member, you're saying, yes, as we look into this, we will make sure that we will do this. That, even that statement of intent is considered a pledge, a promise, you know. And as I said, Universal Periodic Review. There are many mechanisms. Malaysia actually is a big role, has a huge role in the UN system. They are, besides being a member of the Human Rights Council, they also actively, they've also reported under the Universal Periodic Review and made pledges and promises relating to women. Next. Okay, so basically we come back, when we observe this, we do memorandums, activism is there, and what is the status? So for example, paragraph 8 says, the committee calls on the state party to take immediate measures. So this is the recommendation from 2006 review. Remember, the government did only one report, went to New York with 23 members of the staff of the government, went there, a huge delegation, went to New York, sat with the committee, and the committee said, thank you very much for coming. Can you take up this recommendation? You should take up this recommendation, making sure that it's part of the domestic legal system. What's the status? It has not been incorporated. And of course there are reasons and so on, more details in the report. Next one, just to give you an idea, another one would be remove the reservations. Remove all of this where you're saying we are not able to deliver. Remove the reservations. The good news is reservations were lifted, but some remain there. Next, intent. In the conversation with the committee, Azaliza, who was a representative of the government, remember it's a 23-member delegation, said, we will examine the issue of the protocol to prevent, suppress and punish trafficking in persons, that we will sign on to it. And yes, they have fulfilled this promise, they've exceeded, but of course I'm sure the Naganita and all the migrant groups will tell you, and Suhakam will tell you that implementation is not necessarily good, but they have done it. So this is it. At the end of the day, what do we want? From this meeting, we have many, many different ideas, but the basic message is we have an alternative report. There are many issues that are highlighted. We urge the Ministry of Women to complete the government report to submit to CEDAW. We have given them a letter. We've written to them about a month ago before this to say our report is ready. please come and attend our forum today. I'm afraid we had no response at all, not even an acknowledgement that we've received the letter. So we are asking the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development. Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development. Now, who's the minister of this ministry now? The Prime Minister himself. So we've got the attention of the Cabinet. We should be doing very well. Okay, so a message back to the Prime Minister. Please ensure that your ministry that you have now taken on deliver the rights, deliver the rights to women, that you pay attention to Malaysian women. We make up half the nation. Please, that? Yeah, janji ditepati. Yeah, keep to pledges. We also ask for the government's plan of action to fully implement the CEDAW Convention in Malaysia. What is your action? Where are you sitting down with different arms of government and ensuring that they understand that every ministry, every department, there is a gender or women issue there. There is a perspective that whatever policy that you put in place has an impact on women, and to make sure that they are thinking about women when they are planning and implementing. And lastly, perpetuation of gender stereotypes, which is a huge problem. A huge problem. Sexist comments, judiciary is today saying that, well, women tend to exaggerate about sexual acts anyway. Huge, huge issues when it comes to this stereotyping of women made by policymakers, people in high positions, people whom we have elected. And sorry?
The judge said women lie.
The judge also said women lie. So now we're getting judiciary saying some really negative things, and I was going to say crazy, but saying things that does impact women. Yesterday when the judge said, well, women tend to exaggerate when it comes to sexual acts in the context of rape, this means we are telling women who have been raped that we don't believe you. It has a direct impact on women, and will stop women from coming out to report, because you're having a judge who's not neutral, a bench that's saying, you lie anyway. This is a huge issue, people. This is a huge issue. The stereotyping, the perpetuation of gender stereotyping from all levels, and especially now from the state and our elected representatives, has to stop. And there's got to be a plan. I wish I had a magic pill to give everyone so they become instantly, they realize they have to stop saying these things, but there has to be a re-education of all our state authorities and elected officials. So with that, can I invite Vani, Nisha, Fadila, Shanti, and Dr. Kaur to come forward here.